Okay, my outstanding friends, we're going to go through a very, very detailed research study of the gut and the microbiome. And Hippocrates, over 2,000 years ago, said all disease starts in the gut. Now, this is the National Institute of Health. All disease starts in the gut. Why? Why would they say that? I can show you why. And now it has just been discovered about 6 or 7 years ago about a layer in the body where all these fluids move. And these are the fluids that protect you, and they come from the gut. Hold on, let's look into it. Okay, I want to be sure you fully understand. I'm giving no medical advice whatsoever. This is 100% research. Now, this is from Time, and this is back in 2018 when they announced this interstitium. Here goes.
Scientists have discovered a new organ called interstitium that might play a critical role in how other tissues and organs do their jobs. It might also be related to the spreading of cancer. A study published in Scientific Reports led by a team of NYU researchers describes the interstitium as a series of connected fluid-filled spaces found under the skin, throughout the gut, lungs, blood vessels, and muscles. Most studies of the human tissue missed the interstitium because the biopsies they viewed were dried and put onto slides, which in turn destroyed the interstitium. It only became visible when pathologists used a new laser endoscope to see microscopic tissues in living people. The authors of the study suggest the fluid-filled spaces could be important for a number of reasons, including understanding why some cancers spread more quickly than others.
Okay, let's get started. Don't forget, research only. Okay, I always sort of feel funny about bragging about this, but I did. I discovered interstitium, the fluid-filled highway in the body, because of my fascia facilitated fossilization paper in 2015. I put this up because I could find this, and it was the reason that the fossils were being preserved in such a perfect manner was because of this fascia. And all it is a membrane. But it's a thick membrane. It's not a flat, solid sheet, and that's what they have always thought. So I made this paper, and I said it is one giant system. They come together, all these fascia collagens, the fluid-filled highway, creating this network, and it comes all together as one giant system in the whole body. Fascia is a tubular, fluid-filled fabric network. That was my paper that I wrote on academia.edu back in 2015. Now, let me show you what science had to say about it. Okay, this was what the problem was. Fascia was always considered to be a sports injury type of thing. Now, it says, what is fascia? Fascia is a thin casing of connective tissue, which is really the membranes that surrounds and holds every organ, blood vessel, bone, nerve, fiber, muscle, everything. Your skin is even fascia. The tissue does more than provide internal structure. Fascia has nerves that make it almost as sensitive as skin. When stressed, it tightens up, and then they think that that's what causes muscle pain and sports injuries. And that's who I originally contacted, with those kind of people. And then it developed into understanding that this is much more than just a source of pain. Now, the truth is that most doctors that I've talked to don't even understand this yet, even close to understand it. This interstitium is, meet your interstitium, a newfound organ. All right, this was in 2018, they put this out. And here it is right here. And what it is there's a fluid-filled layer that sends all of your lymph fluids through your body, and those contain the enzymes and the bacterias that do the job of protecting you. They're your frontline troops. You see this? This is what the interstitium, now they say, is it's a contiguous, everywhere, fluid-filled space existing between a structural barrier, that is that membrane, such as a cell membrane, skin, internal structures. All membranes have that fluid-filled highway. And that is what protects you from invasion. And it's specific to the chemistry of that organ. Your bladder is much, much different than your heart, and is different than your intestines. It's different than your muscles. Everything has its own specific chemistry going on in that specific layer of this interstitium, on that specific type of anatomy. So if it's muscle, you need a specific type of chemistry living in there that protects muscle tissue, which is bloody and all that stuff. You don't need that same chemistry where you have tendons or bones. They're going to have a totally different chemistry because you got calcium over here, you got tendons over there that are more silica rich. You got all kind of different organs with different kind of chemistry. So you have to have different kinds of bacteria to create the enzymes, which is the chemistry. All right, so I know that was a little bit of a rant, but that's what's going on in these fluid-filled spaces. And again, these are those fluid-filled spaces. This is right underneath the skin, but it could be an organ, it could be a lung, it could be a kidney, it could be a heart, it could be your gallbladder. Every single membrane protects this good stuff down here from, you can penetrate this, who cares? This is just stuff that just goes away. It's like a skin, it falls off all the time. But you get through the skin, you get into the here. Now you got a problem. If it's continuously being able to be invaded, that's a chronic illness. It's a chronic disease, specifically cancer we're going to be talking about today. But it causes every different disease, and even all your nerve fibers in your brain and your eyeballs and everywhere, they have membranes around them. The tiniest, 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 tiniest fiber in your body has a membrane around it. If it's penetrated, then that nerve fiber doesn't work. Same thing with blood cells. You can get blood cell invasion because the membranes around every single cell, every single blood cell in your body has a membrane around it. Every single cell in your body has a membrane around it. Every single organ, every single different type of tissue. I can't stress this enough. This is where your protection lives. And if you don't have the right enzymes in there, you can't be protected. The only way you get the enzymes is to have the bacteria. All right, I'm going to take a little bit of time with this. I'm going to try to calm down a little bit, but this is the most important part of this whole thing, is this interstitium, this fluid-filled highway. And the reason it's fluid and filled with these fluids is because you need to send your bacteria, your enzymes. The bacteria go through these fluids and clean up all the stuff that accumulates. Something's got to clean it out of there. That's where it gets dumped, into the lymph system, which is this fluid-filled highway. And it also sends out enzymes to attack invaders. And an enzyme, and it also breaks down your food, it does all that stuff. This is where all your biology in your body is done. All the rest is just there structurally. Inside these fluid-filled highways, that's where your main support system is, like Amazon. It's like, well, that's like the delivery system of Amazon. Amazon lives in your gut. Amazon lives in your gut. That's where almost all of the stuff that you absorb from what you eat goes into your body through your gut, somewhere along your intestines, your colon, whatever. And if you don't have the right bacteria in there, some of that stuff will turn against you. You have to break it down, or it will break you down. And that's what happens. It's like in Cdiff, it was what they put out, this fecal matter transplant to repopulate your digestive system with these bacteria. If you don't have them, you're done. It's case closed. The only way, the only way that you can get these enzymes is from these bacteria. And these enzymes are exotic, and they do magnificent amounts of chemistry just like that. And if you can't do it that fast, it's not going to happen. The body works at the speed of light, literally. In every one of these molecules, they break down using ionization, and they do it in what's called nucleophilic invasion. It comes in here with a whole bunch of different chemistry, and it goes, and they all break down into whatever it's supposed to break down to, according to the click that hits it. It's an enzyme comes and goes click, and all of those molecules out there right in this general area, they change instant, just like that, which would take literally years for that to happen if it wasn't for the enzyme. The enzyme is just unbelievable. And it not only does that fast like that, and they all change quickly. Anyone that's linked in together with this is called click chemistry. Click magnetically, and then it just continues on, go down, find somebody else, click, boop, they all do it. That's the beauty of enzymes. But the enzymes do not exist until you have bacteria to make them exist. All right, here it is right here. Bacteria are the factories that produce enzymes. They come out as ribosomes. And I'm going to show you the actual chemistry in action. When the right bacteria are present in the right quantities and the right conditions, they produce enzymes. All right, they're talking about it. All right, let's just cut right to the chase. Bacteria are the factories that produce enzymes. They are the factories. They actually create them. And I'm going to show you that anatomically. Watch. All right, listen to this now. This is about the discovery of this interstitium. It says, with all the time poking around in the human body, you'd think we have a decent idea of what's where and what's not. That's why the discovery of what some scientists call a previously unrecognized organ is so fascinating. This is the interstitium. In a new study, researchers claim the interstitium fluid-filled spaces in tissues that are connected throughout the body should be considered a new organ, and that these spaces may play a major part in a lot of what goes on in your body. Absolutely they do. Now, they say, well, where has it been? Well, experts have long thought parts of the body, like skin, veins, arteries, and lining around the muscle, contain walls of collagen, which they do, but they're filled with fluids, the main component of connective tissue. So these are these fluid-filled highways made out of the connective tissue films. And instead, as the new study points out, these walls aren't walls at all. Instead, they're spaces filled with fluid that are simply supported by collagen. These spaces are the interstitium. And it's not officially recognized as a new organ yet, but it's one of the most important things in your body, really, because this is your immune system. That's where your immune system is. All right, this is from UC Berkeley, I believe, and this guy's name is Gokul. And the name of this is Your Textbooks Are Wrong. This is what cells actually look like. Now, I am going to put the sound off, and I'll narrate it myself as he's going through it and explain what he's showing. And it's pretty much what he's going to be saying. I'll try to remember to put a link to this. Now, here goes. All right, so he's looking at this thing. As a matter of fact, let me put on the carbon, the CC, so you can still see what he's saying, and I'll speak to it at the same time, so I won't have to put a link. No, I'll try to put a link. I'll try to remember, but my memory is not good. Now, this goes back to 2018, and they developed a new way of looking at the cells actually alive and moving and doing things, and they can see the bacteria. Now, watch what happens here. So he's saying when he saw this, he freaked out. His hair on his arms stood up. And now, he's looking in here. All of this is inside of the cellular network. Now, here, I'm going to stop it here. This is inside the interstitium. This is that fluid-filled highway. Now, you're going to see a bacteria going around in here and scooting around and gobbling up something. What it is, I don't know. Well, these are the kind of things we can figure out now, because what happens is they can get in and out of these cellular compartments, and these are where all that fluid-filled stuff is, and it moves around through the highway. Watch what happens here. So, in other words, it's attached to living compartments in here where all the bacteria exists, and then it squirts out here to go through that fluid-filled highway to attack. All right, so he's watching. They're watching it. See, watch what's going on. This, I believe, is a bacteria scooping up. They said it's sugars in a zebrafish or something, but it could be. It's some kind of an enzyme, bacteria, whatever it is. Look at it run around, and watch it go out. It's going to zip right out into the fluid-filled highway. Watch it. Zip, there it goes. Now, he's saying they notice there's two types. Now, remember this. I spoke about, I think I did, about click chemistry, where the enzyme, and I'll show you that in a minute, how specific they are. They're very, very exotic. Now, they click and kill things, but there's another one that's like this one here. And this one just runs around searching for invaders. And he says it doesn't eat anything, but it's very active, and it's searching around. It's trying to figure out what is in the environment. That's all it is one of these just squirting around, and when it finds it, it alerts the troops to come out and kill it. So this one doesn't do anything. Now, this is the one that go in to get the stuff and squirts out and goes and kill them. So it's just squirting around, watching, zip, there it goes right out into that fluid-filled highway. So you can actually see these things happening. Total new world, my friends. All right, so what did I just show you? I showed you the interstitium, and this dark spot, watch this, maybe you can see it, maybe you can't, I hope you can. You see these little spots down here? That's where that bacteria was living, down in there, scooping up those little blue balls or whatever they were, and then it shot out into the fluid-filled highway and headed around to deliver whatever it has to deliver. Now, there's other ones that live down in here, and they're garbage collectors. They go out throughout here to pick up garbage and things that are in your system that you have to flush through. And then that's called lymphatic fluid. And the lymph brings that lymphatic fluid down to the lymph nodes to be destroyed and gotten rid of. Now, when you have melanoma and skin cancer, either you don't have the right fluids in here and the right bacteria and the right chemistry to break things down to either get it out of there and bring it over to the lymph nodes, or, well, actually, the lymph nodes, let me think about this. All right, this is kind of critical here. This is the lymphatic fluid. And these little buggers live right in here, all those little, enzyme-producing bacteria. And then they send, or they go shooting out through there with their flagellas all over through the body, or they just flush their stuff into the system and it floats around. As an enzyme, it just bounces into things and just kills it. But I would imagine it's going to have to be somewhat targeted, but that's all in the research. Now, what my point is here is that if this fluid has the right stuff in it, it should be able to have it all broken down and then delivered to the lymph nodes. The lymph nodes are very, very sophisticated little devices to take all of these toxins and all of these debris and all of the stuff that you got to flush out of your body and break it down to package it up and send it off to the kidneys or wherever it goes, to the feces and whatever. But the lymph node is the interface between the fluids and a dump. And that's the processor. Now, if you get melanoma and skin cancer, that processor is not doing its job. Why isn't it doing its job? Could be a lot of reasons. They say it's this or it's that. Well, I would think that fluid-filled highway, which is in that lymph node, they all have it, they're everywhere, every single cell has it, doesn't have the right bacteria to do the job. Now let me show you how sophisticated this bacteria is and what it produces as a single cell organism. Wait till you see this. It's stunning. But don't forget, your doctors may not even know about this yet. And this is where your immune system is. It literally is. And I can show that in so many ways, it's just unbelievable. Okay, just so we finally understand each other, the bacteria is living in here somewhere, and they squirt out just as I showed you from that little video. Now, so they go out into here. Well, what does a bacteria look like? They look similar to this. There's all kinds of different bacteria, and there's literally tens of thousands of different species. And what does it do? Every species has a different DNA. You see, this is the regular DNA like we have in us. They have that DNA, and in that DNA, there's a program. And that program creates ribosomes. Well, what is a ribosome? I'll show you in a second. But that's its main. This all this is one cell, one tiny cell. This thing is just absolutely tiny, 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 tiny. Now, it squirts out these ribosome balls. Some other ones, I believe, go and consume. They're like macrophages. They must consume other things to break it down. So you're continuously dying. You are continuously dying right now. Every cell in your body is dying. And sooner or later, it will die. And what happens to it? You can't just leave it dead in your body. Somebody's going to go out and take it out and deliver it to the lymph nodes. So that everybody has to work together. You got to be able to go out and get it. Then you got to break it down. Then you got to deliver it. Then you got that guy's got to process it. Out it goes. Okay, so here we are going from the bacteria squirting out these ribosomes. And in this case, that's the kind of bacteria we're dealing with, which is creators of enzymes. That's where the enzymes come from. Now, like I say, there's other ones that'll go around and gobble up things. Now, what do the enzymes look like? Here's what happens. These are those little balls. All right, they come out, and I don't know whether they unsheath automatically when they hit the interstitial, the lymph. I don't think so. I think there's some trigger that triggers them to unsheath. And when they unsheath, out pops an enzyme or a protein. All right, what's the difference? One of them is a destroyer or a breaker of things, the enzymes. They're a reconfigurator. And a protein is a building block. It's a builder. This is a destroyer. Think about it that way. It's not exactly that way, but close enough. All right, so here we are. The ribosomes created from the bacteria. So you don't have the bacteria, you're not going to get this. You don't have this, you're not going to get this. You don't have this, you're not going to get that. This is the way it works. Yeah, this all starts with the bacteria. And where does that come from? It comes from these microbiome. All right, so what I just showed you was one of these, an enzyme. Now, the enzyme is the most exotic chemistry that there ever was. You see all these little tiny spots at the end? Those are all magnetic little click points. So you have a whole ball of magnetism like this. And if it's not exactly identical to that every single time, every single one, identical. You break this, doesn't work. You break that, doesn't work. So this has to be exactly like this. And what it does is click chemistry, which means this doesn't even get used up after it comes up. It comes up with all these little magnetic charges. Now you're going to have another one out there, so a bacteria or whatever it is out there that you want to attack, and it's just going to go click, and this thing's going to go blah, 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 and fall apart or die or whatever it is. And this is just going to keep going because it's unharmed. It just went with this magnetism, and next one, next one. But you have to have this, and in order to have that, you have to have the bacteria to produce this. Okay, there's really no reason for you to know this other than that there is 20 amino acids. These are all these different little amino acids, and they link together in a certain way in this chain. It's nothing more than that. That's it. Exactly the same thing. And when they come through, they program this ribosome. All right, and they build an enzyme inside the ribosome. Basically, that's what it is. And then the ribosome goes out and does its job. But I got a shocker du jour for you. All right, I'm going to close up a few of these. We know the interstitium coats everything in your body, or every organ, everywhere. So that's done. We'll forget about that for now. Well, now these are the stages of cancer. But before we do that, let me get rid of these other ones. This one here is where has it been hiding? They always thought it was a dense, thick, because by the time they autopsied them, they were flattened out, and all that fluid was drained out. And what is this one? What is it? All right. Instead, a new study points that the walls are thick, dense, but the new findings were they were filled with fluid. Now I could see that in my mud fossils. That's how I knew about it. And that's why I wrote my paper on it. And of course, that's it. And this is where all the little stuff lives, in that layer right there. That's the membrane. And that, normally they saw that it was just flat. And this is what the membrane looks like. Now, I believe there's a little layer right underneath the bottom of the membrane. So this lets stuff get in and out. But the membrane it's either on the top or the bottom. I'm not sure, to be honest with you. But it's something that has to be researched. Here's what cancer looks like. You're trying to get invaded. These little things are growing just like us. They want a place to live, and they want to get good nutrition. So what are they going to do? They're going to try to nibble away at you and get down through this fluid-filled highway. If we can't fight back here, there's no troops to stop it. First of all, you're going to get gashed through there, let's say. Let's just take a regular injury. Forget cancer for a minute. Let's take a regular injury. You get a gash through, and it cuts through your skin, and then it's going to cut through there, and it's going to get down into your good flesh, and then you're going to bleed. That's how you get injured. Well, what happens when the bleeding stops? You've pushed all that bad stuff back out of there. Your bleeding pushes it out. It creates what they call fibrin coating, which is almost like another membrane. And then it kills all these guys that were trying to invade you, because you have these fluid-filled, guys coming out to kill them, the enzymes and bacteria and so forth, and then it heals over. But the fibrin takes the place of the interstitium for that interim period. All right, so let's just talk about the stages of cancer. All right, you got the early stage. There's a small mass tumor found somewhere which is growing through your tissue, but it hasn't spread yet to your lymph nodes or other tissues, sometimes called early stage localized cancer. All right, so there's enough of fight back that it hasn't invaded you totally. Now, this is where it goes one way or the other. It stays localized. Cancer has started to affect nearby tissue. The mass may have grown in size, spread to the lymph nodes near the mass. So the lymph nodes are being invaded by this bad bacteria that has taken over in that area, because your good bacteria isn't capable of producing the enzymes. Basically, that's the way I see it. That's the way the research is pointing. Now, then you get to the regional spread. Well, why would it spread? The reason is the regional spread is because you probably don't have that same bacteria over in that. If you didn't have it here, you're probably not going to have it over there. If you don't have it over there, you're subject to being invaded over there. And normally you're going to have a certain type of cancer. Bladder cancer, prostate cancer, skin cancer. There's over 200 types of cancers. I think there may even be 400 types. But that's because they're all different types of chemistry that has to happen for that exact type of tissue or exact organ. Lung cancer. People have cancer of the eye, cancer of this, cancer of that. Well, every one of those things has a membrane, and if that membrane is breached, that's when you get cancer. All right? And the distant spread is it goes to all kinds of things in your body, usually because your body's trying to fight back and creating its own toxins and so forth. Now, I have, well, I'm not going to get in as deep as I could, because it's overwhelming, to be perfectly honest with you. But this is what's going on. This is the war of the superbugs. We have bugs coming into us that will take over if we don't have the correct bacteria to fight back. And here's the key. The bacteria that we have is exactly like the bacteria that's coming in to get us. They produce the same types of enzymes and toxins as we produce back against them. We're both the same. A virus is identical to an enzyme. It's the same thing. A virus comes in and it's created by a bacteria, and then it goes in and it attacks all your cells, just like an enzyme attacks its cells and its bacteria and kills it. These come in with their own and they try to kill us. Now, we should have plenty in our fluid-filled highway, because we're a huge creature. We've got a couple of these little guys coming in. We should be able to wipe them right out instantly. Go on, have a nice day, don't ever come back. However, if you don't have the good bacteria in your body, in this fluid-filled highway, there's just nothing there to stop it. So it depends on how many attack you, first of all. If you're just going to be attacked by a few, well, your body might figure out something to get rid of them, and you know, they go out and pus or something like that, or whatever. Either you get better or you don't. Let's just go with that way, because it's one or the other. You're going to ward the thing off somehow. And these things are just as tough as we are. So you better have enough guys, which is, we're just big things compared to them. So why shouldn't we have enough to kill them if they try to get into us? The only reason is if your bacteria in your body is not capable of producing the enzyme. And these fecal matter transplants, it appears that you're just repopulating the microbiome, basically, that's where everything happens, because it goes out into the fluid-filled highway. But that's where all your digestion, all your interaction with your food, your digestion, your drugs you absorb down there, everything happens down in that area. That is the source of all disease, just as Hippocrates said thousands of years ago. That is literally the source of all disease. If you don't have the chemistry going on down there because of the bacteria, you're done. Because you're always going to be eating things that are going to have bacteria going to try to attack you. Every day you're eating all kinds of stuff that have bacteria in it. You don't know, you're never going to know about that, because your body's supposed to fight back against it. But once you take antibiotics specifically, and you don't replace the probiotics, then you're in trouble, because that antibiotics don't target necessarily one little thing. They target a broad variety, and they don't even know what they target. They don't even know what's inside us for bacteria. I've heard there's some study they've just recently been doing that's trying to build a database, and that's what we're trying to do over there in Northern Ireland. You know, I've been in this stuff pretty deep. As a matter, I told you, I discovered the interstitium. So I started out earlier than anybody in this, and I understand what's going on there. The doctors still don't understand it. So this, as far as I'm concerned, without the enzymes and the proteins, you're done. And the only way you get them is from the bacteria, which creates the ribosomes, which is these little balls. You're done. And there's more bacteria in you than there is you in you. So we need to make these things comfortable and fed right. You have to have prebiotics and probiotics and all that stuff in your body, but you need to eat right, first of all. And you have to have the right fluids for your body. And people live near places where some of the fluids are terrible, and so some of the foods they're eating are suspect as well. All of that needs to be put into one big examination to see what is affecting the bacteria. If you have all these bacteria, you're good to go. But if you go to a town and everybody in that town is missing a bunch of bacteria and they're all getting bladder cancer or something, there's real high rates there, well, why? Well, just like Hippocrates said, he says, find out where they live, find out what they eat, and then you'll know why they're sick. Okay, like I said, this is something pretty brand new to medical people, because you know they work very slowly and they're very, very careful not to do anything that they can think they can get sued for. Now, this interstitium is something that really needs to be investigated deeply and quickly, because like I say, if you have the right bacteria in you, I don't see any reason you can't protect yourself. And that's where it happens in this layer here. And once the invasion starts, sometimes you may have to take a bunch of antibiotics to kill it, but then you have to repopulate your good bacteria, otherwise you're going to be back in the soup again. And that's why when the Cdiff, well, let me just show you something. Well, I'm not going to get too deep into this, but C. difficile is common following antibiotic therapy or hospitalization. especially among older adults or patients with weakened immune systems. And a new epidemic strain came about in 2002. Now, the prevention for this is, first of all, they give you heavy-duty doses of antibiotics, but then you get it back again. You know, most people seem to not be able to shed this. So what they do now is they give you the fecal matter transplant, and that seems to work. I think it was like in 90-something% of the cases. All right, I'm just going to try to be brief about this. Clostridium difficile is this very, very bad bacterial infection of your gut. And of course, you have diarrhea and all kinds of things. But anytime you have gut distress, constipation, diarrhea, a lot of bloating, gas, all of that stuff, that is a symptom that you're not digesting correctly. And that is a symptom that you got a problem with your bacteria in your gut. In Harvard, they call it an urgent threat. You see this? All it was bacteria for this Cdiff. A long-term follow-up, multi-center study of interventional colonoscopic fecal matter transplant. For now they have pills, you don't even have to do it special like this. For recurrent Clostridium difficile has demonstrated primary cure rate of 91%, defined as the resolution of symptoms without reoccurrence within 90 days of having the fecal matter transplant. A secondary cure rate of 98%, defined as the symptom of resolution after one further course. So in other words, you take one course of this, somebody, you know, the fecal matter transplant, and you got a 90% or 91%, and then you take another course and you get up to 98%. So the more different styles of bacteria you get in you, the better you are at curing all of these things. Okay, so that's about all I have to say about it. I believe the interstitium and the fluid-filled highway, the proteins, enzymes, bacteria that live in there are your immune system. And it sure looks like that to me. But again, this is just research.